G'day folks, it's Xavier Morello here from Wildlife Exposure, and today I'm down at the beach in the rock pools because we're going to be learning about marine creatures, animals that live along our coastline and out in our oceans. Did you know 75% of our planet is covered in oceans? 50% of the oxygen we breathe is produced by our oceans. So it's critically important that the ocean stays clean and healthy, not just for the animals that live there, but the animals that live on land like us too. When we go diving underwater, we need things to help us. We're terrestrial creatures and we've evolved to move around and live on the land. So if we want to go underwater, I need to see properly, and to focus my eyes underwater, I need to wear my mask. And the mask keeps my eyes dry so I'm able to focus when I'm underwater, so I can see the plants and animals that live in these rock pools. I can't breathe when I'm underwater, so that's when I need to use my
snorkel. And the snorkel,
the snorkel helps me to breathe while I'm in the water. It sticks out onto the surface and I can still be breathing while my face is underwater looking at the animals that live there. People are really clever. We've evolved and adapted and designed things using our technology so we can explore other parts of this planet. And of course, to swim around in the water, I need to act like a fish. My fingers and toes are not designed for swimming. So to swim quickly through the water, I like to wear my fins, or flippers. These will go on my feet. I can move the water quickly like a fish, and I can swim quickly through the water. I'm down in the intertidal rock pools. This is an area that is exposed when the tide goes out and is covered when the tide comes in. I don't have much time because the tide's starting to move in and the rock pools are filling up. Because the rock pool environment is very volatile and forever changing, the animals that live here are extremely resilient, and they've got many adaptations that allow them to survive in this environment really successfully. Many of the animals that live in these rock pools have tough protective skin, such as echinoderms, which means tough skin. And echinoderms are animals that you'll be very familiar with, I'm sure, like sea stars. Sea stars are a type of echinoderm, having tough, rough skin to protect them from being bumped into rocks or being attacked by predators when they're exposed at low tide. This species is a zigzag star. If you can see very closely, the zigzag patterns running down the arms. There are many other species of sea stars, like the gun six-arm star and biscuit stars that look a lot like a biscuit, you guessed it. Many arm stars are the largest sea stars we get here along our coastline in Victoria. They get much larger than this, and they're also known as an 11-arm star because they normally have 11 arms. Sea stars are also really well adapted to sticking to the rocks so they do not get washed away by strong waves. And you can see here, the little wriggling bits underneath are its tube feet. Thousands of little tube feet help them to stick to surfaces. What's really incredible also is sea stars cannot put food in their mouth. In fact, instead, they take their stomach acids out and they regurgitate them onto their food, melting their food away before sucking their stomach back inside. Bizarre. Sea stars also have the amazing ability to regenerate arms. If an arm breaks off, gets attacked by a predator, the sea star can regrow that arm. Sea stars even have the ability to segment, and that means they can break into parts. If this sea star was to break in half, it could potentially turn into 2 sea stars. Another type of echinoderm related to sea stars are sea urchins. Sea urchins are covered in spiky skin, and these spikes we call bristles, I guess because they look a lot like bristles on a brush. Those spikes can move around, allowing the sea urchin to crawl across the bottom of the sea. These creatures also have their mouth not on the top, but here on the bottom. That's the mouth there in the center. And the mouth has a sharp beak that allows this animal to chew the seaweed and hard foods it likes to eat off the rocks. These spikes are a great defense. Most predators won't attempt to eat them, but some animals have adapted ways to break through their tough armor and eat the soft parts inside. Some sharks have special teeth to break up those spikes and to eat the animals inside. Crabs use their claws to chop them up. And people even eat them. They're a popular delicacy in some island countries, and in New Zealand, they are called kina. Other animals that have adapted really well to the rock pool environment are mollusks. And mollusks are animals with soft, squishy bodies, and some of them do grow shells. So if you're thinking, sea snails, exactly. Sea snails are gastropods, which means stomach foot. A snail only has one foot, and inside their shell is their stomach. There's one species of sea snail that's abundant in these rock pools, and it is an elephant snail. It's a strange name for a snail, but the elephant snail was given its name due to its shell shaped like an elephant's toenail. You can see its face coming out. The long parts are antennae that this snail uses to feel its way around in the rock pools. The large black part is the snail's body, and its foot you can see underneath sticking to my fingers. Ugh. These snails are extremely well adapted to living in that volatile rock pool environment. Large waves would crash into these rocks, and these snails are able to stick and hold tight to the rocks so they don't get washed away. One of the elephant snail's favourite food is sea lettuce, the green algae that grows on the rocks. And snails do not have teeth to chew their food, but instead they have a rough tongue called a radula, and the radula will rub the seaweed on the rocks to get it off for it to eat. This snail species was a popular food source for the indigenous people of this region. They would have came out onto the rock pools at low tide collecting these snails to eat. Another species of snail that is very abundant in these rock pools are abalone, and the abalone shell is a beautiful shell, shiny and shimmery with mother of pearl inside. So sea snails make shells. If you find a shell at the beach, it was most likely made by a snail. Also in these rock pools we find crustaceans, and crustaceans are animals with bones not on the inside but on the outside. Animals like crabs. This particular crab has adapted a really clever way to stay safe and protected. The hermit crab. Hermit crabs have adapted to using snail shells that have been left behind by snails once they've died. They move into the shell and make it their home. A clever way to stay safe from predators. Oh, here he comes. If you can see, the hermit crab's little blue eyes poking out. They're called pop-up eyes or stalk eyes. Whoop, he's gone again. Crabs have 10 legs, but we can only see 6 legs of the hermit crab. The other 4 legs are in the shell, holding onto the shell and allowing him to pop in and out. As the tide starts to flood in, it's time for us to head off back to Wildlife Exposure headquarters to have a closer look at some more marine creatures. We're back at Wildlife Exposure headquarters where we keep a number of different marine species in some holding tanks we have at our zoo. There are many different species of crustaceans such as prawns, crabs, shrimp, barnacles and others. And in fact, crustaceans are the largest of all the arthropods. Arthropods being animals with bones on the outside. This is an exoskeleton from a king crab. King crabs are the second largest crab in the world after the Japanese spider crab. King crabs are found in the deep water off Victoria and Tasmania. This crab weighed 6 kilos and they can get up to a whopping 20 kilos. Whoa, that is a big crab. Here in Australia, we have our own spider crab species. This is one of Port Phillip Bay's giant spider crabs. Like all crustaceans, they should have 10 legs. But this crab, unfortunately, is missing a few legs. But not to worry, crustaceans have the ability to grow back their legs. I know this is a male crab. The males have larger claws to wrestle and fight with one another and to show off. The male crabs have a small V on their abdomen. Whoa, watch out for the claws. A couple of times a year, the spider crabs go through an amazing transformation where they shed their exoskeletons. When this happens, they move into the shallow waters around Port Phillip Bay, where safety in numbers protects them from predators. Once they peel off their old bones, underneath, the new exoskeleton is quite soft. So predators, sensing this, come in and feast on the newly molted crabs. so staying together in their big numbers keeps them safe. And this crab actually peeled off its old bones only a couple of weeks ago. This is the old carapace or shell of the body of the crab we're looking at right now. So as they grow, they peel off their old smaller bones and become larger in size. This is some amazing time-lapse footage captured here at Wildlife Exposure of this very crab molting its exoskeleton. Large aggregations of spider crabs is a world-famous phenomenon and is featured on Sir David Attenborough's Oceans series. While crustaceans have their bones on the outside, fish have bones on the inside. And we're going to look at a couple of different bony fish. This first bony fish is pretty well known and we call him Puff. Now Puff is a pufferfish or porcupine fish. It's a type of globefish and they're known for being able to puff up, making their spikes stick out in a defense to protect themselves from predators. These little fish have great eyesight. Large eyes helps them to see in the murky waters of Port Phillip Bay. While Puff is quite small now, when he is fully grown, he'll be able to puff up the size of a medicine ball or beach ball. The next fish I'd like to show you is unlike the pufferfish in the way that it moves. You can see here how little Puff uses his tail to push him through the water. This next fish's tail is a little different. This next fish, in fact, is the slowest swimming fish in the sea. And I'll give you a quick hint. The next fish looks a little bit like a horse. Seahorse! You guessed it! The seahorse is a cygnathid or tube-mouthed fish. You can see the small fins of the seahorse. The pectoral fin's on the side and the dorsal fin is on the back. What's truly incredible is the seahorse is the only animal in the animal kingdom where the father gives birth to the young. This species of seahorse is a pot-bellied seahorse because of their big, round pot belly. There are also other relatives of the seahorse, such as the weedy sea dragon, leafy sea dragon, and pipefish. We have two species of seahorse in Port Phillip Bay, Melbourne. The pot-bellied seahorse you see here with their famous big pot belly, and the exquisite, smaller, short-headed seahorse. You can see the long tail, and they use that tail a bit like a monkey's tail. It is prehensile, which means it can wrap and grab onto things, and that stops them from getting washed away. Let me put in some seaweed, and you'll see what happens. Plants like algae that grow in the sea are the fastest growing plants on Earth. This is some bull kelp, and bull kelp is one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. It's extremely strong, so it can cope with being torn and broken by the strong wave action as it grows along the shoreline. Seaweed creates vital habitat while it produces oxygen and stores carbon. This next creature is another type of mollusk. And if you remember, the sea snails are mollusks. The shells I have here were produced by sea snails, which are the biggest gastropods in the world. This next mollusk is not a gastropod, but a cephalopod. And cephalopods are known for their 8 wriggling arms. And you guessed it, it's an octopus. Yes. The octopus is a type of mollusk with no bones at all, a squishy, squashy body. They're able to squeeze into very small spaces to find their favorite foods. Octopus are specialists in hunting for fish and crabs. Number one, they love eating crustaceans. This is a sand octopus, and the sand octopus has these amazingly long tentacles to help them hunt across the sand at night. Octopus do not have teeth, and their mouth, in fact, is a beak that allows them to crack open the hard exoskeletons of the crustaceans they love to eat. This is a beak from a squid, Both squid and octopus are very closely related. They are different types of cephalopods. Wow, the sand octopus has insanely long tentacles. And what's amazing is octopus actually have a small brain in each arm. So when they reach out across the sand at night hunting, they touch things and immediately it tells their brain what they're encountering. Octopus have amazing adaptations, allowing them to blend into their environment. They can change colors by using chromatophores in their skin. Octopus biology is really out of this world. They have 8 arms, 9 brains, and 3 hearts. Some octopus have even adapted to be the most venomous creatures on Earth, like the picture behind me showing the blue rings of the blue-ringed octopus. I don't have one to show you right now, but they are a species that are found in rock pools along the shorelines of Australia. While the blue-ringed octopus's venom is deadly, they are a very shy and non-offensive creature. The blue-ringed would very rarely bite a person. If you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. Their blue rings are there as a warning to get your attention and the attention of predators. If they're approached, they flash their blue rings brightly as a warning. They're only a very small species of octopus and can be found under rocks, inside empty shells or bottles. So please remember, when you're at the beach, do not pick up rocks in rock pools or pick up shells that are in the water. Shells are homes for other animals, snails as we've seen, crabs, and also possibly octopus. Ocean invertebrates like cephalopods have existed on Earth for millions of years. Like this nautilus, another type of cephalopod that has existed in our oceans for around 500 million years. This last marine creature is one with a very infamous reputation. The shark. This is a jaw from a mako shark. Mako sharks are a type of mackerel shark, a very fast swimming predator. While sharks are predators, they're not predators that are designed to eat people. Sharks are predominantly hunting fish, and they're vitally important to the marine environment. Without sharks, basically the ocean would not be a healthy place. They are the lions of the sea, chasing the fish, making them strong, eating the sick and unwell fish, and also cleaning up any dead fish that sink to the bottom of the sea. Sharks have existed in our oceans for around 450 million years. This is a tooth from a megalodon, the largest predator that ever existed on Earth. And this tooth is estimated to be around 2.5 million years old. Now, sharks are cartilaginous fish, meaning their skeleton is made of cartilage, and the only hard part of a shark's body would be its teeth. This is why the only thing left behind by the megalodon are those teeth. There is around 440 different species of sharks in our oceans. But what isn't recognised is only a very small proportion of those shark species are potentially dangerous to humans. While the mako shark and the great white shark and other shark species are pelagic, which means they swim through the open ocean hunting, a lot of shark species are benthic or bottom feeders, and they swim across the bottom just eating up leftovers. Like this next shark that I would like to show you, it is completely harmless to humans. This is an egg from a Port Jackson shark, and the Port Jackson shark is the one we're going to look at right now. 1-year-old Port Jackson shark. He hatched out of that egg about 1 year ago. You can see its mouth on the bottom, under its chin, and that helps this shark feed across the bottom of the sea. You can see here the gills of the shark pumping the water in and out, helping them to absorb the oxygen from the water. Their beautiful stripes and markings help them to blend into the shadows on the bottom of the sea. The Port Jackson shark is one of those sharks that has adapted to eating hard-bodied animals. They've got a grinding-like teeth structure and strong jaw to help them to grind up crabs' exoskeletons, snail shells, and even the spiky sea urchins and sea stars we saw earlier. While some sharks can be potentially dangerous to people, it's a very small number with a very low percentage risk of you ever encountering or being hurt by a shark. Please remember, our oceans are where sharks live and belong. Unfortunately, many shark species are now listed as endangered. And with sharks having lived in our oceans for hundreds of millions of years, how can we imagine an ocean without them? I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about some amazing marine creatures we find along our coastlines and out in our oceans. And remember, it's vitally important that we keep our oceans clean and healthy, not just for the animals that live there, but all of us land-loving creatures also. Our oceans are vitally important for the health of our planet. So let's all do what we can to keep the oceans beautiful, protect our beaches and our beautiful marine life. And remember, when you're at the beach, have a great time, enjoy the environment, but that old saying goes, take only photos and leave only footprints. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.